Back in December at his introductory press conference, legendary Gator head coaches Steve Spurrier and Urban Meyer were both in attendance. So I asked Sumrall about having those two as a resource.
Yeah, the month of December was crazy. Doing two jobs, finishing the job at Tulane the right way while getting the infrastructure built out at Florida and putting staff together, roster building with Dave Caldwell, our GM, all those things that went on the month of December and January. Not a whole lot of sleep, but been calming down to some degree the last couple of months because you're really able to be focused on the task at hand of building our players and developing our team and getting ready for the 26th season.
At your introductory press conference, you told me this was a dream job, a full circle moment, and you're passionate about this opportunity. So how do you capitalize on that passion and make this all worthwhile for you?
Yeah, you know, I grew up in the state of Alabama, but the SEC to me, my whole childhood was like the NFL. It's what I watched and thought pro football was. And so to be a head coach in this league is very rewarding, and it's been a career goal. And so, man, very privileged to be in the spot I'm in. And I think the University of Florida is a special place. It's a special job. The history, the tradition, the passion that the fan base has, I think makes it one of the best jobs in college football.
You've been very vocal about calling this job, Florida, a sleeping giant. How do you wake that thing up and get it rolling? Well,
I think the standards in which we operate day in, day out in our building have to be really, really high. And there are no shortcuts to success. It takes what it takes. And so I think it's really just making sure the guys in our building, the current roster, understand like what that looks like every day. And then continuing to add to our roster through recruiting and building for the long haul. Like, while 2026 is what's right in front of us, it's also like, how do we build for 27, 28, and beyond?
Longevity is important.
Yeah.
You have so much to balance. Roster construction, you had to construct your staff. You're dealing with NIL, dealing with elevated resources, trying to get as many people to chip into this program as possible. When you factor in all of those variables, what are realistic expectations for you and your staff heading into this fall for year one for you guys?
Well, I want our guys to compete every day. And I think, you know, we have to be of a mindset we'll play anyone, anywhere, anytime, and we're not going to back down to anybody. Anybody that wants to put a ceiling or a cap on what we can achieve in year one, I'm not real comfortable with that. Like, I want our guys to take the field every Saturday with the expectation of winning. And I'm very comfortable with them planning on going to win every game we play. Nice. That's really the way I think about things. Anybody that's like, oh, be patient, you know, it's year one. I'm like, yeah, I'll be patient, but like, I'm not okay just trying to win a few games. I want us to win all of them.
Do you feel like in this era of college football, Jon, that maybe people don't need as much patience as in years past? Because we've seen examples of teams building pretty quickly and winning quickly. Is that realistic to say that in this era you can build it faster?
I think at times you can. You have greater roster turnover than ever, sometimes good or bad, right? You can add players from the portal. You also sometimes lose players you may not want to lose. I do feel like we did a good job of retention for the 25 roster, the 26 roster, of keeping some of the key players on the team. The biggest thing in our league is I think the parity is real. I think from team 1 to team 16 in the SEC, anybody can beat anybody any week. And so it's almost NFL-ish in nature in that regard of the best roster to the 16th roster. Man, those margins for success and error are so small. Really cool for me as a head coach to sit in the same chair those guys sat in, but then have them as resources. You know, Coach Spurrier's great. He's always entertaining and fun to talk to and get his perspective. And then Urban, very methodical, very deliberate in his approach, has a plan for everything all the time. It seems like he left no stone unturned, and a lot of similarities there with maybe how I've done things from a coaching perspective. But to have those two guys that I think such accomplished head coaches as resources and a phone call away, been really cool for me.
Steve also used to sit in this seat. He went to Orlando Apollos, had their coaches show here. So Steve's been in here a bunch too. So great guy. We can go all day long in terms of roster and looking at battles here and there, but just going from the top, your two quarterbacks, Aaron Philo, Tramel Jones, looked good in the spring game. To have those two guys going into the fall, how have you been balancing that QB competition?
Look, those guys are competing with each other really well. They support each other, they're challenging each other, but they're not competing against each other, right? They're for each other. They're on the same team. I think too often in a quarterback battle, people want to make it one guy versus another. Man, I want each guy to worry about being the best they can be encourage the guy next to you to be his best too. And you may start game 1 and not start game 12, 13, 14. Yeah. And both those guys need to be ready for us to play at a high level for our team to be able to have the most success we can have. I like the direction both of them are going. I'm excited to see how it unfolds.
Jon, I've known you for almost a decade now, and it's special to see from your time at Kentucky now to Florida. Do you allow yourself to wake up certain mornings and say, man, I'm a head coach in the SEC of the Florida Gators? How cool was that?
Yeah, you have those moments at times. You know, I stay so busy that I probably don't really have very many of those moments. But occasionally, like if I have a day off, it's when it might like sink in like, holy cow, I'm the head coach at Florida. How cool is that? And usually the only person I share that thought with may be my wife, because she's the only person that's around or whatever that really understands the journey I've been on. You know, I've been coaching college football for I think 22 years now. And you know, I've coached 1AA non-scholarship football. I've coached at a lot of different levels. And to me, wherever you are is the big time. But the University of Florida is definitely the real big time.
2 more for you, Jon. Everywhere you've been, you've won. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. To win at Florida as well, how special would that be for you, your family, your staff, to get it done at the highest level of college football? Extremely
gratifying. If you can win in the SEC, that's the most challenging league in college football, top to bottom. And so, you know, for our players, I want them to taste that success. You know, the guys that have been on this roster in particular, the Jaden Balls and the VB3s, the Miles Grahams that stuck around when maybe the convenient or easy thing would have been to leave.
Sure.
I want those guys to experience that type of success and compete for a championship and win a lot of football games.
Last one for you. When September rolls along, Florida Atlantic comes to the swap, and you walk out of that tunnel for the very first time as Florida's head football coach, what will that moment be like to you think?
Yeah, you know, I'll be excited. I'll really be most excited just about watching our guys go play. They put so much work into their craft. You know, I think the head coach too often maybe gets too much credit when things go good, or a lot of blame when it goes bad. And I got broad shoulders. I can carry whatever. But I really will be excited about watching our players play. I tell them all the time, you know, practice days are the days that I really work. Game days for the players. And so for them to be able to go put their craft and their talent on display and go compete in the swamp, it'll be so much fun for me to watch them go cut it loose.
Jon, thank you so much. Can't wait for the fall.
Yeah, appreciate you. Yeah, go Gators.
That was a fun conversation.